I'm going to take a minute and concede that something I said in my video, Forrest Gump, Economics and the Negro, was wrong. Now, in that video, I mentioned Dr. Claude Anderson in the same breath as other armchair Negroes such as Umar Johnson, and I will admit that, I made a mistake in that point. But the rest of my argument, pretty much is true. And I don't want people taking that one breadcrumb to use that to invalidate the whole argument. When I look at this Negro, and I look at the situation of your Afro-American community, it, people they think that these armchair Negroes were just sitting there, you know, rambling and pontificating. This is some sort of solution. I want you to know, I have been watching these same intellectual Negroes for the last 25 years on shows like Tony Brown's Journal on PBS. And on these shows, they would sit there and talk about these big ideas and these incredible solutions, and nothing is being getting done. These guys talk about, building a black community and building businesses, but we haven't had a Kool-Aid stand built in our neighborhoods in 25 years that's owned by black people. In most cases, most of these guys have been spewing more hot air than a fan in a room that's 100 degrees. And what good is talking about something if nothing is getting done? And when I made the analogy comparing Forrest Gump to the black community, I was making the point that here we have a mentally disabled man who can open up a business and employ people in his own community. Because if you watch the movie Forrest Gump, here's this man who has a room temperature IQ, who's considered mentally slow, yet this man not only went to high school, went to college, um, and then he went and was in the military, but he came home and he started his own business, the Bubba Gump Shrimp Company. And the reason why I make that analogy is because here's a man who we wouldn't think could do these things, but here he is accomplishing something that many of our most educated and intelligent Afro-American Negroes have not been able to do. When I look at all of these so-called college-educated Negroes that have come up over the last 25, 30, 40 years, why is it that we don't have a thriving African American community? We have people who are intelligent, we have people who are capable. Why have they not, taken the plunge and tried to start a business like I have? Why have they not, made the efforts to try to, build something? Why is it that every one of our people, have this mentality that they have to go work for someone? And I'm just sitting there and I'm asking these questions because, we have one of the most educated groups of black people in this generation. This whole generation, are some of the most educated black people. We have the most educated, our black women are supposed to be the most educated in the world, yet everybody's working for somebody else. And nobody sees, how backwards that truly is. I've seen people, white people and Indian people and Asian people and even African people with less education than many of our black people go out and start businesses, and they're making millions of dollars. Yet our people, who are supposed to be the most educated in the world, are still the poorest in the world. And that pretty much, shows me that, educated does not mean smart, because a lot of people are educated, but they can't apply anything. And when your mind is pretty much screwed up, all you're going to think of is working for someone else and seeking the approval of someone else. And that's what I see a lot of in your African American community. A lot of people, they don't understand that working for someone else means you're working against yourself. If you're going to work for someone else, you should have goals that you should be trying to pursue while you're working for someone else. You just don't go and get up and go to work for somebody else and they just sit there and they're getting paid off of your work and you're getting absolutely nothing in return except a couple of wages. I mean, you should always have a plan and a goal, regarding getting your own money. I mean, this is your money, you work for it, and you should have a plan for it. I mean, that's what I always did when I had money. I always, saved my money and I always had a plan for it. Like publishing books and promoting books. I always had like an outside venture that I wanted to use the money for. I never just sat there and said, I'm just going to take this money, which is a tool, which is a lot of African Americans don't understand. Money is a tool, and you can use that tool, to make more money for you or to build yourself up. Instead, a lot of us just take our money and buy, consumer goods with it in the attempt to try to impress others or give. And again, that's just giving away your power and allowing others to, dictate the terms of your life. And that's not what God made life to be. He made you to have the richest and fullest life possible. And that was the whole point of what I was trying to make in Forrest Gump, economics and the Negro. And a lot of people, they took that one breadcrumb about Claude Anderson and they got upset about it. And here I am, I'll concede that point that Claude Anderson is some type of prominent businessman, but I will also say that we've been talking for too long, and it's just time for black people to start taking action. I mean, it was time for us to start taking action back in the 60s, but it's time for us to just start taking action now. Because I look at the state of this Afro-American community, and it's truly in bad shape. And I listen to all these people on social media, and it's just a whole lot of hot air. And, a lot of people, they just come at you with a junior high school, seventh grade, approach, and they don't understand that we're not we're not in a position where we can continue to have this dysfunctional discourse. I mean, people. I listen to the things that they have put in the comment sections of some videos, and it shows me why our community is in such a bad shape. Just people being just downright juvenile and with these ad hominem attacks, these shaming tactics, all because, I present, difference of opinion. And I just look at this and go, this is not the mentality of the way adults behave. And it's just sad to see, people getting personal like this. And I know I'm going off on a tangent, but it relates, to this position because a lot of these people, they continue to watch this video where I correct this pro-black authority, and instead of them, taking the time to actually listen to the points that I'm making, which are facts that you can go on Facebook or YouTube and see, they're getting emotional, they're taking things personal, they're making ad hominem attacks, and they are arguing instead of listening. And they're not, and it's not. I don't need you to agree with me on anything, but when I present facts to you, I present facts. And what I look at it as is, the first point that I had made was saying, I was invited to this group, and if you were invited to someplace, you were given approval by their people. So that's the way I took it. I was invited to this group, the TMI group, and I took that as I was approved. This individual then decides, he's going to change things up. Now, that was my point regarding him. And this is the whole thing that makes it hypocritical with this pro-black individual, is that he says he's about group economics. Here's an opportunity to work with a black business person. This goes over many of these angry, emotional Negroes' heads, is that when you get invited someplace, you have approval, one, and two, this is your platform, which is group economics, and you say you want to work with a black business person, you want to help build a black community, but when you get an opportunity to work with that black person, here's what you do. What you do is you tell the person there's no solicitations, and then you want to then, talk about how, then you have these other people, coming in, talking about you need approval and to dictate the terms, but if you're invited, you have approval. That's what makes this whole position backwards. And you guys say you're about group economics, but then when you present the group economics, it's time to participate with action and to show that you're actually willing to support someone else, then it's a different story. And the other point that I'm going to make, regarding that whole situation with that video is some people say, well, how could you talk about this guy for 41 minutes? Well, when you have a video, when you really care about black people, and I care about every black person, I'm looking at, this guy's actions, and, he has this platform, and he doesn't even understand how he's working against himself. as a guy who's been out here for 15, 20 years, I have seen guys literally build a platform and then have it destroyed because they don't practice what they preach. And when you don't practice what you preach, you wind up alienating people who are not in your radius but on the circumference. And those people are watching you and they're watching your actions and they're saying, you know what, this guy is somebody I don't need to take seriously because, he's talking about this group economic platform. But when it's time to him to work with outsiders who are on the radius, we don't need to work with them. I mean, because this is the way, many of your shallow Afro-American Negroes, focus on things. They think because they have a couple of brand name Negroes on their side, they're not looking at these guys on the outside who could be potentially, more of a help and have more of an impact and, really make a difference. But because they think about, I have this circle of, people who are popular right now and people who are acolytes and followers, but they're not thinking about, the long term. This is a big problem, with many pro-blacks. They think because they have a small following, they don't think about, the future. They don't think about, expanding their platform and expanding their base. And when the bigger problem with this guy, again, is that he spends half his time, not half his time, but 90% of his time on Facebook and other social media and blog talk radio arguing with other black people, and he doesn't think that, this is all detrimental. If you want to help build a black community, you don't sit there and argue with people over opinions. You don't sit there and disagree with people because in the business world, you're going to need alliances and you're going to need support, again, from those people on the circumference. The people on the radius, you already have them, but you really need the support of the people on the circumference. And when you spend half your time, attacking people on the circumference, you're really, getting ready to collapse your own platform because you need those allies. And this is one of the points I was making in that 41-minute video, is that, you're sitting there, anybody presents a difference of opinion, you're attacking them, and instead of you just saying, doing like I just did with this whole Claude Anderson situation, conceding, yeah, I made a mistake, it becomes more indignance and more arrogance. And that's very, very feminine in terms of behavior. And I look at this behavior as just like a 12-year-old girl. And that's what the point I was making. And, I look at people attacking a guy like a J.M. McSwain. Here's a guy with a BAS in information technology. Again, you guys say you want group economics, you want to work with people who will help you build a black community. Well, we need an IT guy. So making ad hominem attacks at an IT professional, how does that help your position? How does that help your overall long-term platform? How does attacking the very black people who you say that you going to need to build your black community work for you? And this is just something that many of the Negroes who watch these videos and think that and trying to get something started don't understand. They don't understand that you're going to need allies. You're going to need support. A black community is not just built with rhetoric. It's built with action. And I'm looking at, your black community, and we have a lot of people talking about things, but nothing getting done. And when I make the analogy to Forrest Gump, is that, yeah, again, we have a slow individual who started a business, but again, most of our educated black people are too busy showing their ignorance by arguing with each other, fussing with each other, ego wrestling with each other, and nobody is really looking at how their actions are detrimental to the African American community. I mean, I read some of those comments and people are just like literally trying to get something started. I don't know if they're trolls, but they just keep coming back and looking to argue or looking to make, ad hominem attacks. They can sit there and they talk about my hair, they talk about my weight, and this is all detrimental. It's like you're not trying to even digest the information. You're just going off on emotion, and it shows that, most black people, as I see it, are just following a lead instead of, trying to use this information to help work for themselves. And when I present information, I don't want anybody to just follow my lead. I want you to take the information and digest it so you can use it for yourself and apply it for yourself, because, we all can do these things ourselves. When it comes down to building a business, this is not that hard. You can build an eBay business with just a bank account and a PayPal account, and a PayPal account is just something you can get with an email address. There are a whole host of business ventures you can get into, that start with no money down. And I look at guys like your Jeff Bezos, who started Amazon.com out of his garage, the Chris Wozniak and Steve Jobs, who started Apple out of their garage, and myself, who started an SJS Direct right out of my own bedroom. This is not that hard. And I'm looking at most of our black people. We're not, you know, focused on this eight ball. We're instead, people are just looking for a reason to attack other black people and looking for reasons to get personal with other black people instead of, working on a goal. But then again, this is what I have to agree with David Carroll on a point, is that, many of these Negroes don't want solutions. All they want to do is find a way to not talk about the problem. And this is how they do it. To avoid you to talk about the problem, they come at you with these ad hominem attacks, these shaming tactics, these name calling, and looking to continue arguing. But the arguing is just a deflection to keep from talking about the issue of us not doing what we need to do, and not us not stepping up to do what we need to do. And I just want to get everything back on track, regarding these things, because I do not want my channel turned into a minstrel show. I do not want to have this arguing and going back and forth, because I have been talking to people on my blog and other parts of social media, and they say they don't like that type of discourse on my channels or on my blogs, like www.shawnsjames.blogspot.com. They don't want that type of discourse, and it brings down everything, and it takes everything into the gutter. And I don't want to take black people into the gutter. Again, my mission is to create positive stories about the African American experience, and to diversify the African American book market, and to elevate African American people. I don't want to get into the gutter and keep going back and forth. Again, the only reason why I talked about this pro-black authority is because I saw that his positions were pretty much dysfunctional. And I saw where his actions were very detrimental to him, and detrimental to other black people. And the whole thing is, if you really care about black people, you're going to take somebody aside and try to talk to them. But when it comes down to people who refuse to listen to differences of opinion, it's sad that you have to make a 41-minute video to address them, because every time they hear a difference of opinion, they either delete the comment or they refuse to listen. So this was me trying to come at him as a 41-year-old adult man, and presenting how his actions were pretty much detrimental to him and detrimental to your overall mission. You just don't see it because you're not on it. And if you can't take constructive criticism from another professional, then it's just truly sad that you can't take that constructive criticism and accept that somebody is presenting you with how you are looking on the circumference to the rest of the world. The rest of the world is looking at your actions long term and seeing how they are detrimental to you, and if an outsider like myself is presenting this point to you, then maybe you need to take a honest look at it. Because I had to take constructive criticism, from my readers when they told me that there was something wrong with the covers and on my books, and I had to say, look, this isn't about me. This is about presenting the best product possible to customers. And this is one of the reasons why I wanted to do that Kickstarter, because again, I wanted to connect with my readers. I wanted to give them the best products possible, and I wanted to show them that I'm listening to them and that I truly care about their positions. And that's what a business person does. You want to try to really listen to your customers and give them the best product possible. And I listen, and that's what I was trying to do. And everybody's, I'm trying to get on this group economics and try to help other black people. But again, I am shown through actions that, it was sad that, many of these pro-blacks, really aren't pro-black. And that's what I saw, regarding this whole situation. I'm just trying to, settle things so I can move on. And that's what I was trying to do. As the Christian in me, I try to, move on. And what I'm trying to do here with the whole Claude Anderson thing is, the position that Jesus said that, you have to agree with your adversary. And if I was wrong, I'll admit that I am wrong. And that's not a problem for me. Again, I'm a 41-year-old man. I can admit when I make a mistake. And it's not anything personal. And I don't have to get personal, because a man does not get personal. A man says, okay, we made a mistake. We're going to move on. And this is just something how adult men operate. And I'm not going to get in the gutter with people and go back and forth with them and argue with them, because adult men do not argue with each other. They, move on. They go on and try to do the best that they can. And if some people, and they don't need to name call, they don't need to use ad hominem attacks, they don't need to use shaming tactics, they don't need to bully people, because they understand that, you're not going to be able to do everything by yourself. And you're going to need allies in order to achieve whatever goals you want to pursue. You're going to need support in order to do what you need to do. And I have this goal of I want to eventually sell 1 million copies of a book. And in order for me to sell that 1 million copies, I'm going to need a lot of allies and support to do that. And, you're not going to, again, you're not going to be able to do anything by yourself. It's just not going to happen in this lifetime. And I look at, when I was making that video, that's why I was trying to say that this is just immature behavior, because, you can't always be right, and you can't always expect people to just agree with you all the time. I mean, if you can't hear a difference of opinion, you're not going to make it in any business, because you are going to need, again, those people as allies. You're going to need that support from other people in order for you to accomplish any type of building. Nobody's going to build anything by themselves, unless you have a Lego set. That's the only way you're going to build something by yourself. And, this is something, most black people, they just don't understand how adults operate in this world. And they get back to this, again, junior high school mentality where they're name calling, attacking people. And I listen to many of them because I have to wind up deleting all those comments, because I'm not going to have that kind of stuff, on my channel or on my board or on my blog. I'm not going to have name calling. That's a standard that I follow, because, we have to be civil here, and I'm not going to have this type of content on my channel or in any part of my social media, and I'm not going to tolerate it. And because we can be civil, because when you guys do these ad hominem attacks and these shaming attacks, you pretty much prove, to every person outside of that radius who is non-black, that the truth about their ideas about black people. All you're doing with these personal attacks and these, arguments is saying that to all these non-black people, all these white people, all these white racists, all these white supremacists, all these foreigners who hate black people, you're telling them that, every truth, everything that they think about black people is true, that we can't work together. All we do know how to do is argue, and we turn, every part of social media or every part of this internet into one big sewer. And I want to see people, again, this is not what my mission is. I want to see people rise and, take themselves to the next level. And I want to see black people do better for themselves. And, what's sad is I have to make a 41-minute video about a pro-black authority. And what's even sadder about it is that almost 2,000 people watched that video, but I can't get people to watch a video, about these 2 books that were part of that Kickstarter. I can't get 2,000 people to watch a video about these books, and I can't get, sadly, some of those 2,000 people to go even buy these books. But they'll sit there and watch a 41-minute video of me making a point about this pro-black authority, and will take it and use it to argue and fuss at each other. But they won't, look at it and say, this man was mature enough to not attack this man, but to present his actions to him and constructively criticize him, and try to help him. They won't see that the positives of it. They just want to see, ad hominem attacks and shaming tactics and an attempt to start a beef. And, you'll watch and the sad part is 2,000 people will watch that video again, but those same people won't go out and buy those books. Those same people won't even head over to Amazon to go read those books, even in the preview. And it shows me, what the sad state of affairs is with your Afro-American Negro, regarding his situation. He'd rather see drama and beef than elevate himself and take himself to the next level. And, for all the talk that many black people do, black people, yeah, so for all the talk, most black people, aren't really about, taking themselves to the next level.